Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
What's that time of year again? Change of season, but before we get there, school starting for many. If it hasn't started, it will be starting in another couple of days. And with that brings some challenges in all different ways on parents, on students. We're going to dig into that. And she helps people of all different ages navigate all different challenges, even school. And she's an amazing psychologist. Dr. Gloria Vanderhorst is back with us. Welcome. School is in session.
School is in session or just about to be in session. So everyone is gearing up for school.
Well, it's also in session here because every time we have you on, we learn a lot. So,
well, that's great. That's a very nice compliment. Thank you.
And let's reverse engineer it, because I have lots of friends around that age that are becoming empty nesters, or have. Right. They literally this past weekend dropped their kids off at school or going back to school, but a number of empty nesters. And it's been challenging. Like, how do you deal with that if you're a parent, maybe even a single parent, and now that person that's been in your house all that time is gone?
That's a great question. And I have some clients who have just accomplished that, right? Dropping their kids off at school for the very first time. And I have some adolescents who have just headed off to college for the first time. And I've been checking in with them, kind of how's the transition, what happened at the drop-off. And, colleges now kind of roll drop-offs pretty quickly. They've gotten smart about it. Not everybody comes at, 9 a.m. on the first day. They have these rolling processes. So the job is just to get your kid in the room as fast as possible. And
it
then
is.
Take
Get
off.
out. It's so true. I had somebody I talked to and she was running late this past weekend, and it was a, 1:15 and you're out of there.
That's right.
Barely time for your parent to help set up your room.
Right. They
Wow.
get to unpack things and take boxes away, but they have to be very efficient about it. But, you asked the question of, okay, so what happens, particularly if this is your only child and you've just dropped your only child off at college? And I do have a friend who just experienced that. And truly, it's sad. You really miss this person who's been in your life and in your house, for years now. And sometimes you forget that you've just dropped them off at school, right? So you'll find yourself kind of calling their name. Dinner's ready.
I honestly have somebody that did just this first time. And it was in like 3 states away. And I'm due to check back with her by text. I honestly don't know what to say. I don't,
So in that situation, I always think, do a tell me. All right. Tell me what you're experiencing. Tell me how it went.
True.
Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling. And, if you can do it, tell me. Because questions are threatening. We've kind of referred to that before. So the tell me is an invitation. I want to hear what's happening for you. It says anything goes. You don't have to be specific. You don't have to focus in one particular place. You can feel free to disclose whatever you want to disclose or not disclose. It's an open invitation that's just saying, I care about you. I know that you've just had an important experience and I care about you. I really just want to be present for you.
I'm a big fan of the word feel or feelings. So, tell me how you're feeling.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
We all have feelings, so we can verbalize it. Sometimes, I'm guilty of this. How's it going? Question mark. It's can be a little impersonal, depends on, the situation. I think even your phone can auto-populate. How's it going? You just press one button and it just sends it.
That's right.
But
That's
how
right.
are you feeling is just, a few layers more personal. What's your advice for somebody who's in that situation that has just dropped somebody off, their child, yeah, and feeling maybe some isolation, feeling alone? How does that look, and
I
what do you
would
suggest?
I would say do not head home right away.
Hmm.
So you have just experienced an important emotional event in your life. All right. This will be the only time that this event happens. This
Hmm.
is, even if you have 10 children, each one is different. All right. So this is happening with this particular child. And I would say to people, find a park,
Hmm.
go to Starbucks, sit still in your car, take a moment to really process, what am I feeling? What am I experiencing? And look at the needs that you have. All right. You may need to take a walk. All right. You may need to get out a piece of paper and just start journaling what you're experiencing.
Hmm.
Right. You may need to just call a friend. There are a variety of things, but my advice, if you've dropped your child off at college, is do not hit the road right away, because you are emotionally impacted in some way. Right? Maybe you're glad to get rid of this kid. Right? Maybe this kid has been difficult and you've wanted college to come sooner and now it's happened. All right. Or maybe this is, a kid that you just have a great bond with and you're really going to miss. And so, you're experiencing grief, whether you admit it to yourself
Hmm.
or not, but do not put yourself on the highway. That's just an invitation for disaster. So take some time.
So interesting looking at that, because the person I was referring to has a love-hate relationship with her kid.
Hmm.
And
Yep,
she
they happen.
complains about him, but then, is sad, like very sad, and dropping him off. And,
Hmm.
great advice, not heading back into your normal routine right away, even if it is in another state.
Right,
Maybe even to plan to do something else. I'm going to take an extra
right,
day. I'm going to stay
right,
here, and
right,
I'm going to have a spa day.
right,
I'm going to explore, look around
right,
this new area that I'm in.
right.
So yeah, that's and even if you got to head back right away, change your routine, do something
Hmm.
different.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you can always take a break before you take off. You don't have to put all the suitcases in the car and immediately head for the interstate. All
Yeah,
right. There are loads of places that you can go get something to eat, find a
love it.
park, go for a walk in the neighborhood. Just give yourself an opportunity to reset and to digest this experience. Whether you're close to your child or distant from your child, it's a powerful experience to separate and move a child out of your orb, right?
Hmm.
Out of your influence and send them off to college. It's a powerful experience. Give it the respect that it really needs.
And I look at it this way, Gloria, it's your life is changing.
Hmm.
So change it,
Hmm.
change the routine, do
Right.
something different, or maybe look at this as an opportunity to do maybe something different with your life. And some of that time that you would have focused on your child, maybe it goes into, well, you know what? I'm going back into working out. I'm going to go volunteer, whatever it might be.
Right. Or, I can page back to my own experience. So I wasn't the last one to leave home for college, but when the last one did leave, my parents put their house on the market immediately. It was
Uh,
like, we're getting out of this place and moving someplace else that downsizing almost immediately.
Yeah, that it's actually pretty funny because you brought back a memory. I went to just a community college. Actually, full disclosure, I dropped out because I was already doing my chosen career. I was in,
Uh-huh.
I was at the big station, and that's what I wanted to do. Um, but shortly after I left the nest
Hmm.
and got married, um, right away, my mom got air conditioning. All those all those years of sweating in my room with the box fan in the window,
Right.
and then she gets air conditioning. Central air, central air. Yeah. And good for
That,
her. And good for her. That was,
yeah, sure. Yeah,
that
that's
was
funny. Well, now she could afford it because she doesn't have to feed you.
no, that was a treat. That was a treat. So let's go to, let's say, middle school and high school. And I
Hmm.
hear this a lot, very close to this, where there's a lot of challenges nowadays with teens. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, bullying, and
Incredible.
oh my gosh, the list goes on and on and on.
Right.
What if you have a child that doesn't want to go to school? That just for whatever reason, whether it's anxiety, whether there's fear of bullying, um,
Hmm.
whatever the answer is, how do you
Hmm.
navigate through something like that?
That's a really good question. And it happens more often than you would imagine,
Oh, I get it.
right? Um, and there are a variety of reasons that a child wouldn't want to go to school, particularly in the current environment,
Yes.
right? We walk through metal detectors and some fancy ones recently with artificial intelligence that can identify whether you have any kind of a weapon on you or not. So it isn't just a metal detector, right? If you've got one of these plastic guns that you've made in at home, it can pick that up too, is the way that I understand it.
Mm,
And so, there's the emotional reason that I'm uncomfortable, it's dangerous. There are other emotional reasons. It's too big, all right? It's too complicated. I don't fit. I don't feel like I am welcome or I belong, or it's
sure.
difficult, right? So I have dyslexia and it's hard for me to keep up with all of those things. Or I have difficulty in math and I get embarrassed
Yeah.
when I get called on in class and I don't know the answer, I don't know what to say. So, or maybe I just have some kind of physical or mental disorder that makes it difficult for me to actually access the education in that building. And so there are a variety of reasons that students will have difficulty going back to school, and every school system has a process to help those children. So you access that process as quickly as you can so that your child gets the resources. They can be homeschooled, they can have teachers come to the house, this can be done
Well,
online.
every municipality, every district is different. Um, as I understand it, in these parts, there's no homeschooling.
Really?
The only homeschooling is if a child has a physical challenge that's temporary, broke a leg. So
Uh-huh.
then, they will sign off on that 6 weeks. It's homeschooling.
Mm,
There's no homeschooling uh, outside of that. Outside of, let me just clarify
mhm.
that. Unless you take your child legally out of school, withdraw them from school,
Completely withdraw them.
and then
Mhm.
you pay for it. And then you
Uh-huh.
pay for it. And that's how,
Yeah.
essentially it is around in these parts. Now, maybe it is different if your child has severe issues, but for the stuff that we're talking about, it seems just like today's challenges, um, post COVID and all of
Right.
that, and just, all the things that you identified. So, real and impactful, where a child may be pretty sharp, but they may have
They may be
things.
anxious, no?
I
They
was
may
just going to say
be
it.
completely
Right.
uncomfortable or developmentally, all right? They might be kind of in a younger phase
Yeah.
And so they feel out of sync with their peers. And,
Yeah.
our educational system has been really slammed by COVID. COVID has put children back
Yeah.
year, 2 years in terms of competence. So we're in this catch up mode, but maybe it's also time for us to look at the educational system
Agreed.
and decide that what we do to educate our children honestly is not working that well,
Agreed.
right? It's really not working that well. So this could be an opportunity for those who are concerned about education to say, let's just re-examine the system that we use. All right.
I'm
With there's probably no other place where you go to work, right? And there are 40 kids, 40 adults in the room that you're working in, right?
mm-hmm.
Right?
But
They're
let us
sitting in little chairs.
and one thing not to be forgotten, when it's your job, you have a choice. I'm going to go to that job. I'm going to quit that job. I'm going to that job.
Right.
This is your school. This is
Mhm.
you're legally required to
Right.
go. So now
Yep.
you're putting a round peg square hole, forcing that might not be the right fit
Right.
for a student for whatever the challenges
Right.
are that they have. I totally agree with you. I think it needs to be analyzed. And fortunately, some schools are now getting even substance abuse counselors where they didn't have
Mhm.
that previously. Uh, I think they're behind the eight ball on that, at least the ones that I'm aware of, but thankfully it's happening because substance abuse, vaping has been going on for years,
Right.
years.
For a very long time. The other thing that I think we could take advantage of, and I've just read some things recently, is that there's a real need in the trade community
Mm,
to feed adolescents
yeah.
into different types of trades where they can be successful, they can make a good income, they can
Hmm.
buy a house,
Yeah.
right? And home ownership is actually the key to success in the United States. If you can't own a home, you're going to struggle to support yourself. So we could do much more about educating kids about trades starting at the elementary school level, just to know that they exist and what they do and how you can kind of get trained in all of those things. We need tradespeople.
Absolutely. And I think that all went away in recent years because schools are continually preparing students for exams. Got to
Hmm.
get you ready for exam. Got to get you ready. Got to get you ready. What if you don't want to go to college?
Right.
What if that's not on your radar? And
Hmm.
it used to be where trades were so much more important in school. We're going to
Right.
need, as far as I can see, we're going to need plumbers for a really long time.
For a
There's no,
long time.
and if you start a solid plumbing company, you could be making some pretty good money there as
You
your
can make some very
right.
good money in trades. You really can.
Absolutely. Even electricians. Now, things have changed, but there's always going to be a need. There's going to be things breaking
Hmm.
down electrically,
Hmm.
things that don't exist so much, appliance repair. Unfortunately, a lot of times when the appliance is bad, after a number of years, goes in the garbage, get a new
That's
one.
right.
But yeah, trades are important, and I don't believe it's encouraged like it used to be.
I think there's a movement afoot, all right, to bring that information basically down into the elementary school
Mm,
level,
yeah.
and introduce the variety of different trades that exist out there that you could aim for and really end up having a very nice life.
Even the classes that are offered from my view in high school, there are some, whatever used to be home economics. I forget what it's called.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
got a PC name now. That's great. video, digital production, things like that, that's offered. But I also feel they fall short in things like exposing students to energy
Mm-hmm.
healing, those
Mm-hmm.
modalities.
Right.
Um, and the
Oh,
schools that
yeah.
do those classes are filled up.
Yes.
They're filled up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we could do a much better job
Yeah,
of offering a variety, a full range of education to our children. But I think we have to start that in the elementary school level, just to let these kids know what does exist at the adult level.
for sure. What
Because you
about
start dreaming then.
the elementary school level? We went we went to college. Now we're going
Hmm.
back to the elementary school. What about if it's at the beginning and your child suffers from things like separation anxiety, anxiety in general? I know I did. You know,
Uh-huh.
I was attached to my mother's leg when she was dropping me off at kindergarten. Never forget it.
Well, I have a good kindergarten story for you from one of my clients. This little boy had a nickname at home, right? Everybody called him Butch. And mother took him to school. The school was in walking distance, all right? And so mother is signing him up, right? And the teacher asks, what's your son's name? And she says, his name is Stephen. He'd never heard it before. He had no idea that his name was Stephen. He was Butch, right?
Wow.
And so this huge wave of panic rolls over this kindergartner and imagines she's brought me here to dump me. Can you imagine the
Wow.
emotional experience of being introduced to school? And we think that maybe single experiences don't have much of a lasting effect. Trust me,
Oh,
traumatic experiences have a lasting effect,
especially when you're a child. It just,
especially when you're a
you
young
are
child.
so fresh. And by the way, you must be psychic, Gloria, because my legal name is not Steve. Not even kidding. And I do recall getting picked on from time to time with that name. There were some advantages to it. I don't need to get into it, but uh,
Uh-huh.
I just changed my name when I got into broadcasting because I went from one station, a small one. I was in my
Mhm.
teens, to a large one, and it looked like they were taking staff from that station. So they said, "Can you change your name?" I'm like, "I don't,
Of course.
whatever you need me to do." Um, but yeah, you think about those situations where now you
Right,
have a child, their identity is different,
right.
school for the first time. These are traumas.
These are traumas.
We've hit some of this stuff before, but
Mhm.
even getting bullied, you're a 6-year old, you get bullied,
Sure.
that can change your life forever.
It can. And we don't give enough weight or credit to the life experiences of children in the elementary grades. We think that they'll just kind of recover or that they're so young that it's not important or impactful. But
Sure.
the truth of the matter is, they're more emotionally aware and in touch than older children are. So it has a much bigger impact, but we don't process that with them. We need to do a better job of processing emotional impacts.
Totally. Or at least at the very, very least, recognizing it.
Hmm.
And then the healing process when your child gets to be 14 and now they have some issues and you're like, well, where did that go wrong? Well, if
Hmm.
you rewound, and I'm not saying we're bad parents. We just didn't know
No,
any better. So those
didn't know.
funny little things that, little Butch used to tease him, even as,
Hmm.
his dad, just make,
Right,
not make fun, but just like goof off a little bit, and
right.
just in fun, it could have made
Hmm.
an impression, and
Right.
still dealing with that. Um, we're out of time.
Yes, we are.
Very
It was
interesting.
fun.
Very interesting. And I find that we're on the same page in terms of the education system. And I have kids in school, so I see
Right.
it. I'm experiencing it firsthand.
Hmm.
Again, every district is different around the country. But if anybody is dealing with some challenges with school, their teens, even if you're an adult and you're an empty nester and having some challenges. Your website is pretty simple. It's your name, right, Gloria?
Well, it's www.drvanderhorst.com. Very simple.
Yep. And free consult you offer as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. With the whole school thing, I'm starting to get anxiety because I've got less than I've got 8 days and I still have to go back to school shopping, nails,
Right.
lashes. Gotta get all, not for me, obviously, but
Right. No,
yeah, that's on the list.
to get everything ready and make sure that it's all organized and that you haven't forgotten anything, right?
And everybody's happy.
And everybody's
And there's
happy.
that. Gloria,
Right.
always great having you on. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.